Tory leadership hopeful Robet Jenrick was trying to claim that the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, has discriminated between the far-right riots and the incident that happened in Birmingham, trying to set the narrative that two-tier policing is alive and well. However, he didn't quite understand that his own words and actions have also contributed to the riots. When Wilf points out what he said in Parliament and in public, Jenrick doubles down. He doesn't seem to get it. He doesn't seem to understand that being a person in the public eye, his words have consequences. Wilf did an excellent job of trying to get him to understand, maybe even show a little bit of remorse. Yet in the clip I'm about to show you, you can see him not putting the pieces together and still thinking he can say what he likes.
I think that the Prime Minister has made a mistake in that he has not shown equal treatment to all forms of violence perpetrated by whoever it is, wherever it is in the country. I think it's incredibly important that in this moment we are clear that violent disturbances of this kind, whether they are from the far right or from sectarian gangs, as we've seen more recently, for example, in Birmingham, are equally wrong, and that we call those out and that we urge the police to take action without fear or favour.
Has the Prime Minister done anything against that? He's been very clear that what is wrong is law-breaking, is violence, is thuggery, and he's called that out very, very, very clearly. Does that not apply across the board?
Well, in his public statements, he's actually spoken primarily, if not exclusively, about the thuggery, the violence, the disturbances caused by the far right. And of course that's important, because the actions of the far right, for example, the racist ambushes, the attack on a mosque, are disgraceful. Let me be absolutely clear on that.
You yourself have tweeted about two-tier policing. As far as I could see, most recently on the 10th of March. Does that phrase, two-tier policing, have any application in the last 8 or 9 days?
Well, I have been very critical of the police in the past, particularly around the attitude of some police forces to the protests that we saw since October the 7th. You know, I thought it was quite wrong that somebody could shout
what about the
Allah
last 8
Akbar
or 9 days?
on the streets of London and not be immediately arrested, or project genocidal chants onto Big Ben and that person not be immediately arrested. That attitude is wrong, and I'll always call out the police for it. I think at the moment, the police are doing their very best. You know, we should thank our brave police officers. We should support their efforts. They need now to be arresting the rioters. I want those individuals who've committed these serious crimes to be sent to jail for the longest possible term. I don't think at this moment politicians should be doing anything to make the lives and jobs of our police officers any more difficult than they already are.
There's another phrase that you used on the 22nd of February in Parliament, where you said, quote, "We've allowed our streets to be dominated by Islamist extremists." It was in the context of the debate that had taken place the previous day, where Labour avoided a potential rebellion based on their amendment going forward. What do you think when you look back at that particular phrase?
Well, I think I was absolutely right. And, you know, there were instances back then where we saw Islamist extremists on our street. I've just given you one example where you literally had somebody chanting or shouting Allah Akbar off Oxford Street. We saw people commending the Houthis for firing missiles at British-flagged vessels, you know, in the seas. You know, that is completely wrong. That is anti-British, and we should be calling it out. And what I don't want to see are politicians or sections of the media closing down the debate on those important issues, because it would be irresponsible if political leaders were not able to debate and to discuss rising levels of extremism, whether it's Islamist extremism or indeed on the far right.
You've used two-tier policing. You've used the idea that our streets are dominated by Islamist extremists. And even if you give context, and people can argue if it's legitimate, the full and legitimate context for the individual situations when you use those phrases. This past 8 days, we've also seen people unequivocally break the law and cross the line in a way that you have condemned. I think it's fair to say, in part, with some of those ideas at the forefront of their minds. I guess my question on all of it is, even if you can find legitimate context for those phrases at the moment that you use them, do you sit here today, step back and pause and think, I'm not going to use those phrases as readily again, or even potentially regret using those phrases.
No, absolutely not. What you're arguing for is to close down debate in this country.
I'm not arguing for anything. I'm asking you the question.
Well, the question you're asking is, should me as a political leader in this country not raise the question of Islamist extremism?
But
should I not raise the question
you're saying
of the
it's
far
dominating
right?
our streets.
Well, how could you argue otherwise when you see somebody, hate marches through the streets of London, making British Jewish citizens feel deeply intimidated, where you've got people chanting in praise of the Houthis attacking British flagged vessels? These are disgraceful scenes.
But I think it's just...
I will always call that on any side of this issue. There is a nuance
from a immigration minister, former immigration minister, and a leading MP. There is the importance of nuance.
I always try to.
No, and just as the idea that Elon Musk is saying that civil war is inevitable is clearly ridiculous. We've had 400 or 500 arrests. It's appalling. In 2011, we had 3,000 arrests. We're a population of 67 million. It does not define the nation. James Cleverly, Priti Patel, many of your colleagues have come out and said that on the show this week, as have the government.
Well, I actually think we have a serious problem in this country
of extremists,
with
Islamists dominating streets.
I think we have a serious problem of extremism in this country.
He's not the only MP that doesn't quite understand they have a responsibility to ease tensions, not inflame them. Yet both Lee Anderson and Priti Patel spent yesterday doing just that, almost trying to defend the actions of the rioters and keeping the narrative of the asylum seekers being treated differently very much alive. And if you want to know what that's all about, well, then you need to watch the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.